Yep. Hello and welcome to this episode of Neighbors Cooking. I am your chef and host Mitch, and we're back for another great episode of food fun, and great friends. So I was thinking about my mom today who passed away last year, and one of the things that she used to cook all the time for us as a family was shepherd's pie. And I know I've done a show a long time ago on shepherd's pie, but I got to thinking, why don't I make it more often? And the reason is, it's just me and my house usually, and you make this big casserole of shepherd's pie, and it really just ends up not all getting eaten. And there's nothing worse than throwing food away that you've made and wasting it. So I wanted to come up with a way to make a shepherd's pie that would last, that would be good food prep, and could even be on the go kind of thing. So I got to let my little creative mind going, and I decided that I would do muffin styled shepherd's pie. Now, what does that mean? That means that I know shepherd's pie has no base. It's got the potatoes on the top, but there's no base to it. There's nothing that would allow you to pick it up and go. So I decided that I would add pastry to shepherd's pie. So I gave it a try earlier today, and it actually came out really good. So we're going to do it again today. So first things first, I want to start by getting the pie crust going. So I'm going to have Joe show this part of our camera here, our countertop. I couldn't find any pastry sheets that you normally can buy. I could only find pie rounds already cut. So we're going to use that, but we're going to have to cut our rounds out of it to make it fit into our pie tin. So I'm using jumbo muffin tins. You could use the kind that have 12 in them. That would be smaller. So that would create more of a snack than a meal. So I've taken out my pastry, and I'm just going to use this ramekin, and I'm going to cut small circles. I can probably get 3 or 4 out of each one of these. I've had to bring it up to room temperature for a minute. So we got 3 here. And then we're just going to take these and we're going to put some olive oil into our pans. I'm going to take the rounds, put them into your pie tin, and just kind of put them down, just like you would a muffin. I've got some corn powder on the bottom of my board here so the dough didn't stick. And you're just going to make them fit. They don't have to fill all the way up to the top of your pie. And put them in. Because if you had it hanging over the edge, you would end up getting a burn as you were cooking it. And then I'm going to take my other roll that I had out, and we'll get the other 3 done. And the reason we're doing this before we start what's going on in the interior is because we want to put this back in the fridge and get it chilled again before we put it in the oven. So you've already set your oven to 375 degrees. You have brought your pie crust or your pie dough from the fridge to room temperature. You're cutting it out. If you had a sheet, and my plan was, and my recipe is on the site, you would take the sheet and you would put it across the top of the pie tin and take another pie tin and put it on top of that to get it down inside. But this just works as easy. It's not a big deal. So there we've got our pie tins with our dough in it, and we're going to put it back in the fridge. Get it cool again, because we don't want to put this soft dough into a hot oven. All right. So now let's talk about the ingredients that are going to go into the shepherd's pie. It's pretty simple. Now, you're going to take a pound of ground beef. Use the leanest ground beef that you can find. You want to take corn, green beans, peas, carrots, and onions. This is what you'll find in any shepherd's pie. And so you've got a pound of ground beef, and in total you want to have about a cup of vegetables that go in with the cooked beef. You could use frozen vegetables. I'm not a big fan of using frozen vegetables because you're just going to take a cup out of the mixed vegetable bag that you buy, and if you don't use it again, it's probably going to go bad or you're going to throw it away. And the other thing is, it's not fresh. So all of those frozen vegetables have already been cooked. So a lot of the nutrition's already out. Then they're flash frozen, then you cook them again. So you really get no nutritional value and you don't get the true flavor. So what I've got here is a cob corn that I've taken the corn cut the corn off. I took some hard cut green beans, just cut them up into small bits. Some English peas that we got from Trader Joe's today. Some carrots and some onions. So we've got about a half cup of all of those and our beef. So we're going to start off by putting the beef into the pan and getting that going. My pan's nice and hot. I've also already made the mashed potatoes that would normally go into the shepherd's pie. So those are already made and cold, so they don't have to be hot potatoes. In fact, it's probably better if they're not, but they need to be creamy. So you don't want to have stiff potatoes because you kind of want it to blend with the pastry when we're cooking it. Into the meat, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using Himalayan pink salt and a half a teaspoon of black pepper. And we're just going to let that start to cook and get nice and brown. Now I made some gravy earlier today. You can make your own gravy. You could buy gravy at the grocery store in a jar, like the pre-made brown gravy. I just used some Better Than Bouillon base, mixed it with some red wine and some salt and pepper and some of the base, and just mixed it and let it kind of simmer. I put some sage in it. So it's just a basic brown gravy. You could use any gravy that you wanted if you didn't want to take the time to make it. So don't stress out about that. I'm using a very lean beef, so I'm not going to have to drain this in the recipe. I tell you to drain it, but that's only if you're using like a 70-30 mix of beef and fat. You don't want all that fat in it because when you put it into the pie, remember we've got a crust. So we don't want that crust to get really greasy and gross. So we want to make as little moisture in that as an interior to that pastry as possible. With quiche, for instance, if you were making quiche and you had your pie crust, you would cook your pie crust first to get it semi-cooked so that all of that moisture doesn't get into the dough and make it doughy. In this case, if you're using a lean meat, you're not going to have to drain it. So we've got that going. Turn that heat up a little bit. To that, I'm going to add the onions. This is a really, really, really easy recipe. And the garlic. And we're just going to let that start to cook. The salt will help pull the moisture out of the onions. So again, we don't have a lot of moisture. That's what you don't want. The nice thing with this is if you have a little bit too much moisture, you could always add some cornstarch or some arrowroot or even flour and thicken it up a little bit. But just watch the amount that you're putting in and let it kind of cook down, and you shouldn't have any problem. I think we turned our oven on to 375. I said that. And we're going to talk about the rest of the ingredients. So we've got a half a cup of beef broth. We've got a cup in total, about a cup in total. You can make more corn, less corn, more beans, more peas, more carrots, whatever it is that you like. And we've also got this tomato paste and Worcestershire sauce that we're going to put into it, and also some sage. All right, where are we? So the next thing I want to put into here are the veggies. And again, we want about a cup in total. So we're not, if you want more corn, more green beans, and these are all raw. None of these have been cooked because we're putting it into the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. So they're going to cook on their own without any problem. Same with the English peas. and the carrots. And even if there's a little bit of crunch left to some of these, it's not a big deal because that just means you're getting more nutrition out of it and it's going to seem fresher. And I'm not going to cook all, the vegetables are not going to be cooked down by the time we start to put the mixture into the pie tin, into the muffin tins. Because again, this is all going to cook together once we get it into the pan and cook in the oven. I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of tomato paste. And I'm just going to put that in the center and let it start to melt a little bit. While the meat's cooking, I probably could have used a little bit bigger pan on this. We're going to put in 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And we're going to put in about a half a teaspoon of dry sage. You could use fresh sage, and if you do, you would use a tablespoon of fresh sage. Sage comes on a wood root, so you have to make sure you take all the sage off of that wood attachment. You don't want that in your food because it's an unnecessary crunch that you don't want. And it'll just taste like you ate something out of the garden that you didn't want to eat. What do you smell, Benny? Yes. My faithful little dog, always in the kitchen, in my way. Come on, out. Come on, thank you. And then we're going to add the beef broth right into that. Not too much. I'm adding about a 1/4 cup to begin with, and then you can see how it's cooking down. So with the mashed potatoes, you can either mash them, do them from scratch, cut them up, boil them, mash them, or you can buy the pre-made ones. There's some amazing pre-made mashed potatoes. I'm not a big pre-made mashed potato fan. I know Joe's not, and he loves my mashed potatoes, right?
Yes. I didn't know we were having mashed potatoes.
Well, what's in shepherd's pie? Of course we're having mashed potatoes. How's your week been with Starbucks this week?
Busy.
Busy?
All the tourists are in town.
Well, that's right. We've got Modernism Week going on. We've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I just finished an interview with KESQ. Somehow I've become the community hero of the week. I don't know who I paid for that. But they did a really long interview and they promoted the show and Palm Springs Pride and Village Fest and in the desert. So all of the things that are near and dear to my heart. So it was really an honor to have them here in the kitchen and to talk about all of the things that I do to help support the community and the great people that help me support it. One of my neighbors that helps me, her name is Janet, and she has been an amazing volunteer. And I also have another guest in the house today, the person I bought my house from, actually, David. And so it's kind of fun they know each other, so it's kind of old home week here. And David wanted to make sure I hadn't burned the house down inside yet. So I think he's happy. Yeah, David?
Yes.
All right. He never did a cooking show from here, though.
I love what you've done with the place.
Oh, well, thank you. It must be the art or the company. It's probably the company. All right, so we've got that cooking. We're going to let it cook down just for a few more minutes. You can see how easy this is. If you've ever made shepherd's pie, you know how easy shepherd's pie is. So with shepherd's pie, you would basically take the mixture that we've just made. You would put that into a casserole dish, all into one casserole dish. And then you would take your mashed potatoes and you would spread them out or pipe them out or however you decided to put them out into your dish. And then you would bake it in an oven for 375 for probably a half hour until the potatoes got brown. Now, the one thing I will say, when I experimented with this earlier, I didn't find that the potatoes browned on top as much as I like them to, so I went and bought fire.
Ooh.
So you could use this. This is probably a pretty extensive kind of creme brulee torches. There are smaller ones, but this seemed really manly to me. So so sexy, right? This I might set the house on fire with, but so you would just use this on a very low temperature, not trying to melt metal, and you would brown your potatoes. So let's start to build it. Let's start to put it together and see how we do. So here we've got our muffins. I'm going to bring my rack over. Joe didn't see that. All right. Can you see all that, Joe? Mm-hmm. All right. So we've got this beautiful mixture of ground beef and vegetables and Worcestershire sauce and condensed whatever I was talking about, tomato sauce. Why can't I remember what I'm calling it? And it's all mixed together. You're going to take a scoop, just an ice cream scoop, and that's about the size of the scoop you want to put in. You could put a little bit more if you want, but remember, we still have more to add to this on top. So put one into each one. So this recipe would have been enough for 12 in a muffin pan, so Joe's boyfriend will be getting some extra meat tonight. All right. So that's the first thing we put in. The next thing is cheese. So in my recipe, I say I've got cheddar cheese. You could use cheddar cheese. You could use any sharp flavored cheese. You don't want to use a mozzarella cheese or a Monterey Jack cheese because there's just no flavor in it. So I'm using a white cheddar and a white apple cheddar cheese. Again, I tell you, don't buy it in bags already, cut up. You want to shred your own cheese because it melts better and it'll blend into everything we're making. So I'm going to take this white apple cheddar, and you can put pretty much, you don't want to go crazy. You want to just kind of cover up the top like that, and you go right up to about the top of the pan. It's okay because the cheese will get crispy on the edges, which is delightful. And you're just going to do this on all of them. This was about a pound, maybe a half pound of cheese, maybe a little more. See, I got a little bit too generous with some of them. All right. There we go. All right, so we've got our cheese, we've got our pastry, we've got our mixture, and now we need to add our mashed potatoes. Like I said, I made these earlier, they're cooled. I'm going to use a scoop again. And we're just going to scoop a scoop of mashed potatoes onto each one of these. So these are all of the components that would normally be in your shepherd's pie in a casserole dish. But what we've done is add the pastry to create a to-go snack, a meal prep snack. You could grab it on your way to the gym. And then we're going to finish this off with some melted butter. And we're going to put it all over the tops of the mashed potatoes so that they brown. And these are going to start to melt down into the casserole also. You can push them down a little bit. Just make sure you get lots of butter on there. Well, There we go. So this is about half a stick of butter that I use, I guess. I know I try not to use a lot of butter, but there are times when you just have to use butter. So that's done. I'm going to put a little bit of sage on top of each of them. Just a dab of color. There we go. So we've got all of this mixture put together. We've got the mashed potatoes. You could pipe it on if you wanted to be fancy, or you could throw it on with a spoon. Whatever makes your day, however you want to do it. Anytime I put something into dishes, into pots like this, I always like to wipe off the edges because you end up with all this burnt stuff that you're never going to get off of your pans when you try to clean them. Or you won't clean them properly, or you'll just put them back in with all the burnt stuff on there. All right. And if you're investing in pots and pans and things you're using in your kitchen, take care of them, clean them, put them away, and make sure you take care of them. So we've got these. I've got my oven going at 375 degrees. I'm going to ask Alexa to set my timer for 20 minutes. And I know we'll be done before that, but fortunately, we already have a finished product. All right, clean this up a little bit. And where is my dish towel? Joe, you stole my dish towel. It's always easy to blame Joe because he can't fight back right now. All right. So, we've created our finished pies. And we're going to pull one out. Excuse me, Benny. So as you can see, these are everything we just put in. We've got a shepherd's pie muffin. I'm going to take a bowl here. Take one out. There we go. So we've got this beautiful pastry on the side. Everything is on the interior. I'm going to just cut this in half so you can see the inside. There we go. Ouch. You know, my callous thumbs didn't like that. So look at the inside. You've got your mashed potatoes, you've got all your meat, and then we're going to take some of this gravy that we made. And we're going to put that right over the top. And there you have it. So you can put these on the go if you wanted. You can store these in your freezer for up to 3 days or into your refrigerator for up to 3 days. Are you going to be my taster, David?
David's going to taste.
Are you going to taste? All right. It's very hot. Please be careful. I have no insurance to cover that. All right. So David, you're going to come stand here, blow hard, take a bite. Careful. Very hot. I tell people that and they just take bites anyways, like, oh, I can manage it. He's gonna die. It's hot. 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 Good? Tell him, say it's good. He's not choking on the food, I promise. All right, there you go.
Delicious.
Delicious, all right. Hot. You can take your pan, you can take your dinner. All right. So, as you can see, that was super simple. How long did we take for that, Joe?
Like 20 minutes.
20 minutes. So, of course, there's some prep time, but this is a meal that you could have done in a half hour. If your potatoes didn't brown in the 20 minutes, don't keep cooking it because your interior is going to get too dry. Go out and buy yourself a handy-dandy little torch, and you can creme brulee them, and they'll be just fine. So I want to again thank KESQ today for the interview they did with me. It was really marvelous. I want to thank my friend Janet and my friend Randy for coming and also sharing their opinions of me, the scripted opinions of me, of course. Didn't have Joe come
Notice
back.
he didn't ask me.
I was worried about what Joe might say, but I was really honored to be able to share the great and wonderful things that different nonprofits in our community do and how happy I am to be involved with them. I also want to tell everybody I've got a new blog up. So it's called Kitchen Catastrophes. It's right on my Facebook. It's on Neighbors Cooking on my personal Facebook. It's all of the crazy things that have happened to me in the kitchen over the last 40 years. Some of them are excerpts out of the book that I'm writing, Hot Mess Recipes. That we're finishing up now. I'm just going to get the cover done. It's hard to get a cover shot and look good. So I've got a photographer come in and we're going to start working on the cover, and hopefully we'll have that published out by the spring or at a minimum by Pride Month in June. My plan for the book is that I'm going to donate the proceeds from the book to Palm Springs Pride. So I'm hoping that you'll all support it, and I'll be sure to put it up on the page with a link when it's available. Until then, thank you for joining me in the kitchen. Thank you for continuing to follow me. And if you like the show, please share it with our other foodies in our neighborhoods and our communities. And I look forward to seeing you back here in the kitchen next week. Have a great week. Bye.